Have your attention, please. It is now 7 o'clock, and welcome to a regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Pearsall. Be held today, February the 12th, 2019, at 7 p.m. Here at Pearsall City Hall, 215 South Ash, here in Pearsall. May we have a roll call, please?
Mary Moore. Robert Villarreal. Richard Gamba.
Here.
Sonia Hernandez.
Here.
Brenda Trevino.
Here.
Julian Hernandez.
Here.
Ben Briscoe. Galen Fraser.
Here.
Okay, we do have a quorum, so proceed with the meeting. This time, we'll have the invocation of the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in prayer. Lord, thank you for bringing us here tonight, and I just pray that you be with those who could not make it and keep them safe wherever they're at. And Lord, just pray that you be with us and help us to consider your will in everything we do tonight, and just pray that you keep your hand upon this city as we move forward and as we just try to do things to better our community and better our area here in Pearsall and Frio County, Lord. Just keep your hand of protection upon us. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, if you don't mind, please mute your phones this time. Okay, do we have any citizens to be heard?
Yes, we have a Mr. John Santiago.
Okay. In accordance with Section 3.12 of the Pearsall Municipal Charter, all meetings of the City Council and all committees thereof shall be open to the public, and the rules of the council shall provide that citizens of the city shall have a reasonable opportunity to be heard at any such meetings in regard to any matter there considered. Any such meetings shall comply with all applicable laws of the state of Texas. According to the Pearsall City Council, accordingly, the Pearsall City Council has rules of courtesy in place for all persons in attendance and in its meetings. The presiding public official shall at all times preserve order and decorum, prevent personal references to council members or the impugning of persons' motives. Citizens requesting to be heard shall sign in before the meeting is called to order and shall be called upon in order that they signed in. The presiding official shall use discretion and time allowed a citizen to be heard. The citizen shall make every effort to be brief, get to the point, and to limit speaking time to no more than 3 minutes. Personal attacks shall not be allowed by any speaker. So who is...
Hey,
Yes, ma'am.
do you mind if I give you some copies that I have?
We can go ahead. Yes.
Thank you.
No, I'm Esperanza Guerra. I live here in Pearsall. And my husband passed away, so I've been back and forth to San Antonio and to my house. I live with my daughter and my grandson there. When I left Pearsall, I left with $400 of the water bill. And they kept telling me that they were paying the water, and all that. And I guess my oldest was making always contracts or whatever with Star. I got the final bill. As you can see, look at the amount. I just don't know why I'm not putting everything on, the city. I know I owe some money, but I just don't know why they took so long to cut the water off. And I think that's very unfair. It falls, to begin with, it's on my late husband's name, and then it falls on me. You know what I'm saying? I don't have enough money. I don't make it, not with my check. So I ask you if y'all could please put me for the next meeting that y'all have.
What is it that you're wanting them?
Well, if you see the bill, that's almost $1,600, $1,600, water. That's $1,600 that the city expects from you to pay when, I don't know. I don't know what to do. That's $1,600. The last payment that they made, that was in July, the 19th for $90. The water should have been cut off a long time ago. I don't know why they let it go on so long. And what I'm saying is that this is falling on me, and then on top of that, it's on my late husband's, name. I know I gotta pay some, but, look at the amount.
Well, we've heard your concern, ma'am, and we forward you to our city manager on this concern.
I'm sorry?
I said we've heard your concern, and we will have you address this with our city manager.
Well, the city manager?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I spoke to him, and he was very nice. I did not know what was going on, and he told me right away, the best thing you can do is just have the water turn off. And when he told me, I came and did it. Because I just didn't know I didn't know what was going on.
So you haven't talked to anybody about maybe some kind of a payment plan? Because I believe we had something like that in place.
Yeah, well, that's what was going on, that my oldest was making payment plans. But look what they got me stuck with. And $1,600, for me, it's a lot. By the time I finish paying all my payments and all that, I stay like with 150, and that I need to stay with for my medication and all that. I'm not making good money. I'm getting disability.
Okay, well, we've heard your concern, and we appreciate you coming this evening, but we're going to direct you to our city manager to try to get this matter resolved.
So do you
Thank
think
you.
if y'all could put at the next council meeting?
First, visit with our city manager, and then
Okay.
he'll determine. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay. 5A, discussion and possible action regarding the approval of minutes for the February 5th, 2019 regular meeting. Need a motion?
Motion to discuss?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Yes?
For the minutes,
Yes.
if you have any corrections or additions, we'll be happy to.
Anybody have any questions? No? Questions? If there's no questions, is there any action on this item?
I move that the minutes be approved.
Okay, there's a motion to approve the minutes. There- and there's a second. All in favor? Passes unanimously. Okay, new business, 6A. Update regarding the fiscal year 2018 audit. This is an update, so we don't need a...
Mr. Chairman, Council, we have our auditors with us tonight, and they're going to take over on this part for you.
As far as the audit, we had an issue with the USDA loans. They required that we separate out all the utility funds together. So Josie had to go back and reconstruct those funds. And so we're in the process of where she's finishing, basically reconstructing them, but we just have to reconcile them with the system. So at this point, we're anticipating having the adjusted trial balances within a couple of weeks, and we can finalize the final report for the, as far as some numbers to the city clerk, as far as for your city charge purpose. I'm sorry, I had a root canal done, so this time in cases. So we'll plan on submitting it by the end of the month as far as a draft for the city charge purposes. I'm sorry.
So I want to clarify something that he said there. This has been rather irritating for Josie and for everybody. If you remember right, last year, we combined all the utilities together to make one utility fund because that got us into compliance with what we needed to do with Munigas to try to get the Munigas. now, after we've been in there for a year now, USDA's come back and said, well, no, wait a minute, to be in compliance with our loan, it all has to be separate, put back the way that it was. So we spent a whole year operating under that one system, so, but to finalize the year in the audit for the way that the USDA would have to have it for us to be compliant with USDA, she had to go back in and separate them back out, like they were before. And so what we're gonna do is we'll leave the accounts, the accounts are numbers, and the way it shows up in the audit is a number. We can leave them that way, but still do our finance report where it shows a utility account. So that way we're meeting the purposes of community gas, and at the same time, we're meeting the purposes of USDA. USDA didn't say there'd be anything wrong with us doing what we did, and then after it was done for a year, then they came back and said, well, wait a minute, we want you to undo what you did and put it back like it was.
The only thing that we'll do is, as far as, so that it's easier to do, as far as reclassifications, make sub-objects within that fund, consolidated fund, so that all the activities, including balance sheet, is separated out. And so that we could make the reclassifications a lot easier.
So it'll be structured in a different way. It'll still serve the purposes we need for both groups, for Community Gas and for USDA. We just have to structure it different. In the coming year, or actually this year will be structured that way. So the next audit, it will be structured where both of them should be happy with it. When we get to that point, we will for sure. And I'll talk a little bit more about the audit and the manager's report, and what we're gonna have, what they'll have by the end of the month to meet the charter provisions, and then where we go from there to meet the higher provisions of the settlement. So that's, if you have any questions for the auditor, but there'll be a lot more stuff in front of you when we finish out the total loan. Just want to give you an update because the charter does say by the end of this month. And so I wanted something on the agenda for this month, so we're talking, yeah, we've got it done, we'll have the numbers that the charter requires done by the end of the month, so everybody understands that.
Okay.
What was the reason for it to be in one GL account?
So it's impossible for us to show a positive balance of gas because we've gone from 1,900 accounts, 1,980 accounts to 985 in like the last 5 years. Because every time somebody remodels a home or does something, they're going all electric and there's not the gas accounts anymore. So the purpose was so that we could combine the employees, because what was it? The gas sales versus income pretty much takes care of itself. But then when you have a gas department and you have to pay those employees that's coming out there as well, we were constantly showing a growing negative balance. And that balance was negative before I got here. It was just continuing to grow. That was the reason that Munigas came back and said, okay, now you have to make the prepayment, because that one line was showing, the gas department was showing a negative balance. So they were afraid we weren't going to be able to make a payment. So by combining water, gas, and everybody all together and making the employees combining all the employees together, we were able to show a positive balance in that account and get that deficit removed and show a positive balance in that account, which got us to the point with Munigas where a couple months ago we talked about what would be necessary to get rid of the prepayment so we could get that money back from it, because we have a prepayment of about $140,000 sitting with that we made 2.5 years ago. So it was to get that back, to get to the point where we never had to worry about that prepayment again. And it was a great plan and it worked. I mean, Munigas was talking about doing it, but then the USD comes back and says this. So by what he's talking about, setting up as a single account with sub-accounts will solve both. That just wasn't the way we did it originally. So we had to undo it to finish out this year, so USDA would be happy. And then we'll redo it the other way, but our report that we give you each month, the finance report, the one-page report, we're keeping it on there as a utility account, because that's what we started giving Munigas, so that's what they're wanting.
So are we gonna have the same issue with the gas fund?
No, well, it'll show in the audit, it's still gonna show negative. That fund's gonna show a negative balance because, I mean, if you're in that sub-item, but the utility account won't. The sub-item will, but the utility account will not. And at some point, we either get to the point, our biggest problem, so we talked about this when we talked about the Munigas thing, we probably really need to look really hard once we get this audit done at trying to get a private contractor to come in and take over our gas system. It would help us tremendously for somebody else to come in and take it over. We're the only municipality anywhere around here that runs our own gas utility. West Texas runs everybody else's. That would solve the whole problem, period. But in the meantime, until we do that, this is the best option we have to be able to address that. We've done so much work on the gas system, getting somebody else to come in and take it over should be pretty easy. And then probably the reason that it was never taken over before was because our system was so far deficient compared to everybody else's. You're just going to continue to see those number of accounts drop as those houses are redone. The problem is balance those 985 accounts that are left. We can't just say we're not gonna run a gas system anymore, because those 980 some accounts are left are probably all the 70, 80, 90-year-old people here in town. Because they're the ones that can't afford to go in and remodel their home and make it all like it. So they're dependent on the gas. So we need, I mean, the system has to be run until everybody's finally done with gas. But it's just, there's no way it's ever gonna be, no way. To charge what we would have to charge to make that department self-sufficient, then you'd probably triple the gas rates. If not more, it'd triple those bills. It's just gonna hit the people in town that we wanna hit, that we don't want to hit. So that's why we try to restructure it to balance out rather than addressing the rates.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. Item 6B, discussion and possible action regarding pending applications for City of Pearsall boards and commissions. This is an action item. Is there a motion?
Motion to discuss.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Mr. Chairman, Council, tonight we have 5 applications. We have 5 applications for membership on boards and commissions on 2 different commissions for you to consider. One, this past month, we had a resignation from our Main Street Board. Our chairman, Melinda, who was part of the control performance measurement over here across the tracks, on the other side of the tracks. Something happened with the restructuring in their company. They were given about 2 days notice that they no longer were needed here and moved. So she had to relocate to Rockport because that's where their family home was at. So we were short one, we're short a chairman, but we're short one. So once we get another board person on there, then they can select a new chairman and continue moving. We have one application from Jameson Curiel. He's one of the owners of one of the two new gyms that's going on Main Street. So he's applied, we went through his application, looked at it, Mayor and I both signed off on it, so we would recommend that you approve him for that board. And then we're starting to get some applications for the Economic Development Board so we can get it set up. You guys approved the creation of the Economic Development Board back in March of last year. We're just now getting to the point where we can try to get some people on and get it going. We have 4 applications for it. Rocky from the newspaper, Melinda Hernandez, Thomas Winter, and Selena Trevino. And we've all signed off on those and recommend that you approve those 4. That would give us about half, pretty close, well over half of what we need for that board to get it on this one. So it gets back to full membership on the Main Street Board and get half of another board. So recommend that you approve those 5 people.
Question, do those have to be approved singularly, or can they be done
You can do it
together?
as a group.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the recommendations for the board positions.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a second. All in favor? So motion passes unanimously to approve Jameson Curia, Rocky Alcala, Melinda Hernandez, Thomas
Winner?
and Selena Trevino.
This
Mine doesn't say Jameson.
Jameson Career?
Regardless, I'm looking at the wrong. Economic Development Board.
Economic Development Board is the other 4. Jameson is for Main Street.
Main Street.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the memo was just, the memo that's in there was just economic development.
Okay.
Okay. Item 6C, discussion and possible action regarding resolution number 2019-0204, authorizing the filing of a Texas Community Development Block Grant Program application to the Texas Department of Agriculture. This is an action item.
Move to discuss.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Mr. Chairman, Council, before you, Resolution 2019-0204. This is a resolution from the city authorizing the submittal of an application on behalf of the city to the Texas Community Development Block Grant Program, specifically for the 2019 Planning and Capacity Grant Fund grants that will be given out. So we do CDBG, the projects that we do, every other year where we're doing something that's actually infrastructure related, and that's one block. There's one grant program that does that. CDBG has a bunch of different types of grants. This one's open right now. It closes in a couple of months, so we started talking about this one the other day. So I contacted GrantWorks on this one to ask them they can go through the criteria pretty quick and tell us how we're going to do it if they think it's worth our time to put in for. On this grant in particular, the city's put in for it before, and the city has not qualified for it because of the LMI numbers that we get back for this particular grant. But what GrantWorks explained to me was that the reason our LMI numbers didn't work was because we've never been able to get the low-income housing units here to respond. So you have these big blocks of low-income housing that don't respond with the numbers that we need. And so we've never got that LMI low enough to actually be able to qualify. GrantWorks has a group, 3 people, that actually go out and go to those places and make sure that they respond. And so she said that they would be willing to work with us on this and get that group to come down, and we'll try to get those responses so we can qualify. Getting that LMI low enough to qualify for this one then opens up the door for some of the other ones as well too. So we told them we'd be happy to work with them to be able to do this. They've already had a team reach out to us with the 3 individuals that they said that's what they do. They go and get those numbers, try to help us get it put together. If we get that LMI low enough, it opens us up for a bunch of other stuff.
What type of numbers are you referring to?
Low to moderate income, those are the numbers. So we get people, homeowners and stuff respond when we do it. You census data for that, but you never have the right numbers for those large housing units, and those are the ones where most of your low-income people live. And I know last time the Athol apartments didn't respond, and there was one of them. She specifically said 2 on the phone when we talked to her. And she said if those 2 had responded, we pretty sure we would have made it. But we never could get a response from her. She said, are you willing to help us get a response from her? We said, sure. Just tell us what we need to do, and we'll go help. And then all of a sudden, she had a team put together, and they were ready to work on it because they're pretty sure we will qualify. Now, this grant can be used for a couple of different things. What we're looking at on this grant is to try to get, so it does have a match. It's a 10 or 20%. It's a 10% match, a 20% match, excuse me. We have $15,000 set aside in the budget this year for the comprehensive plan. So we can use that as a match if we can get this grant, and that'll put our total funding to work on the comprehensive plan up to about $55,000 if we can get qualified to get the grant. That'll give us enough to get everybody in here. We need to get it done quickly. So for this year, we're saying that we would recommend that we apply for this, using that money we already have in the budget as a match, so we have it set aside in case we do get it, and put that money into trying to get the comprehensive plan done more expeditiously. If you have any questions, we have to try.
Any questions? What about GrantWorks? Their services, is that
The GrantWorks,
costing us?
yeah, that's the same group that helps us with the other CDBG grant. They normally charge a little bit. I mean, they would be one of the contractors in this process, so it would cost us a little bit to use them, but their money comes out of the grant.
Like 1%? Or
It's a low percentage. I mean, even on the big CDBG project, you pay like $12,000 or $15,000 or something out of a $300,000 project, so it's not very big. And then with this one, of course, there would be no other contractors except for whoever we hired to help with the conference, so we can get move along faster. And you have a period of time to spend. It doesn't have to all be spent in the same, so once we got it, we would be secure to get finished.
Okay, any questions by the council? No? Okay. So this is an action item. Is there any action on this?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we authorize resolution number 2019-02-04.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. A motion and a second. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. All right, moving on to 6D under new business, discussion regarding the analysis of change store targets for Pearsall benchmark study. This is not an action item, so it's informational.
Mr. Chairman, Council, we had mentioned to you when we were at the first, when our Main Street director went over the first report that we got back from Main Street, that we were actually trying to get them to zoom it down in closer, not just look at the whole county, but look at Pearsall in particular. So they've finished the first stage of that, and that's what's before you, and I'm gonna let her explain it to you.
Council, so Alan Cox is the development director, the economic development for the Texas Main Street program. So he's never done this before, and what he did was he broke down our chart here, which one means that we already have it and it existing in the community. The peach color would be something that is unlikely prospect for us to get, and then the orange was something that potential leads. So what he did was he broke it down to where we have competitors, which is like Divine, Dilly, Catula, Honda, Pleasanton. Then to our twin, which he looked at the population and if they've had oil boom before, different things like that, as our twin, and then peers that even if they're not Main Street, but that they've grown because of the development that they've had. So whenever he went down, he basically went through and says, okay, for retail, there's O'Reilly's, the Family Dollar, Dollar General, AutoZone, went down the list. And out of our areas that are either competitor, twins, or peers, he thinks that our best idea to go after our potential leads would be a Bell's and a Hibbett Sports. That he thinks those would be the potential leads that we could go after. So now that we have more of a, you can look at the setting and see why he thinks that. If you look at the competitors, twins, and peers, that's the areas around us have those businesses there. Restaurants, he thinks it would be like a Whataburger or a Taco Bell. And hotels, he looked at the Budget Inn, Best Western. Travel centers would be like a Love's or a Flying J Pilot, and then auto dealers would be like Ford. So if you go down the list, you can see like Divine has 7 of the retail and 7 of the restaurants, whereas we have 11 of the retail and we have 10 of the restaurants. And it's basically just a comparison so you can understand what you can look forward and to target as a chain store.
So there's a bunch of other information behind this that he gave us. But this, I mean, this is what boils it down here. So this is the kind of stuff when we start talking to some of these businesses. You know, this is the kind of stuff that they want to see. This is what they do. You know, they look at it. You know, what cities have like population. You know, it's about the same in income, and start looking at all that stuff. So if we walk in the door and handle this is their first step in looking at coming to Pearsall, and they don't have to do that work anymore. And this is what we talked about when they did the whole county-wide. So it gives us something to walk in and hand to them and say, you know, you're already here, and we're the same thing. You know, we're the same size city. We have the same, you know, about the same demographics. So if they know they're doing good in those towns, that's going to make them quickly look at coming here. He's going to continue. I mean, this is the first version of this, the rough version of this. They're continuing to work on. Of course, he's doing the same. This is businesses we'd like to see on Main Street because they're the Main Street group, so that's what they're supposed to be doing. But he knows that a lot of these may not, if they come, they're not going to end up on Main Street. They're going to end up someplace else in town. But he's been extremely helpful. He's been good to work with. He's continuing to do a bunch more of this, trying to help us out. So to get somebody to do a study like this will cost us probably $10,000-$15,000. And we're getting money. That's one of the other benefits of the Main Street programs. We're getting this stuff for free. And getting those people working with us, knowing that it may not just on Main Street, we're going to help you with it anyway. So it's been very beneficial. So as we continue to put these things together, it makes the potential to try to get some of these in here, our economic growth expand each time we get something like this done because we have more tools to use when we're talking. So I wanted you guys to see this. I thought it was interesting that he said one of the restaurants that we should be able to get here is Taco Bell because we know we're supposed to get a Taco Bell and they backed out at the last minute. So maybe showing them this might change their mind and get them. I mean, they've done everything, got to the last step, and then they backed out. So maybe being able to show them this might convince them that maybe we do need to go ahead and come.
You know, at one time we had dealerships here in town.
One.
Well, no, we had the Ford and the Chevrolet and GMC and.
You know, somebody, who was it? Somebody at one of the meetings was talking, I think it was a Main Street meeting, with Mr. Sinden or Randy Roberts was talking about why we lost them too. I don't remember what he said the reason was. He said there's a particular reason that we lost that dealership. Something that happened, I don't want to say what it was, I don't want to guess, because I don't remember off the top of my head, but he did talk about this. But of course, I mean, you know, Dilly and Divine aren't that far apart, and there's dealerships. And, you know, we saw in the first article that how much money is going out of Pearsall purchasing vehicles. There's a lot. So there's got to be a market here. Of course, it's going to affect those. And I don't know, you know, those franchises through Ford and Chevrolet and whatever, I mean, you know, how, I mean, it's just like a restaurant franchise, you know, they only sell to certain they look at the sale area too, and they're very careful about that, but you would think that there's room for parking.
We certainly have the population.
If there's one, there's one in Italy, really, they're more size. And we probably got people buying vehicles down there, so.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely have a population for it.
Okay, any questions? Thank you. 6E, discussion regarding the street sweeper schedule development. This is not an action item, so it's information.
So this came up at the last council meeting and a couple of council meetings before. Just want to show you where we're at. We're planning on having the ordinance ready for the next council meeting. Rudy's going to come up and show you guys the map, if that's okay with you. What we're going to do is we've got the city broke down into 4 quadrants. It's going to be a quadrant a week. So we'll have some quadrants that will take maybe 3 days to sweep the streets in that quadrant. Some of them will take 4 or 5 days. But that gives us some time to maintain the equipment and do some other stuff with the equipment too. We've got the map done and got them all labeled so they can start laying out the streets in each quadrant and figure out, now we got to look at the distances on the streets, how long it's going to take us to do that street and figure out the schedule. But by the March meeting, we should have an ordinance schedule put together. So that's ready to go. And then after we get through tonight and figure out some other stuff, we'll hire the driver. Just wanted you to know, because it comes up, it's been coming up once you guys are working on it.
Okay.
We're just trying to get it set up where it's gonna work. Something we can put out, everybody knows when their street gets done, everybody knows if they're parked in the street, when their street gets done, we're gonna tow their vehicle, because it's the only way we're gonna be able to do this right, is to have those streets clear, that 1 day a month. For that sweeper to get down through there and do what they need to do. They gotta do 1 day a month, and your street has to be, 1 day a month, you can't park on the street, that's it. That's the kind of schedule we're trying to get set up.
And that truck that we purchased this last time, that officially does scrape up what's on the street.
Oh, yeah. And we got, there may be somewhere we've got some serious, if we've had some construction or something there's, if it's the mud's a foot thick on the side, 2 feet thick on the side, the first time through, we may have to go through with some equipment and help it. After that, it's not gonna be a problem. Not gonna be a problem whatsoever. And then, of course, all that grass will be sprayed, so we don't have to worry about the grass growing on the side of the roadway, all that stuff, all we're taking care of. The truck was over at the park today. We're trying to get all those areas around the park swept and cleaned up. If we get our oil kettle back tomorrow, the parking lot over there will get paved this weekend. All the paving around is going to get done this weekend if we can get the equipment back. If not, it'll get done next weekend. So the sweeper's working on there around the park right now. And it's picking up some, I think picks up some pretty scary stuff. So
I've noticed that some of the potholes are getting fixed right now, but like to see maybe how we're going to address some of those. Trying to fix a lot more of those potholes. I know a lot of them are getting done right now, but it's a pretty big job.
it's a pretty big job, and once we know for sure where we're at with the STEC money based on what else we have to decide tonight, then we can make a lot more decisions.
Yeah.
It's kind of been. Then I'll talk about how we got to the extra holes in the management report, because we did something in particular on that to do that.
Okay. Any questions by the council? All right. Item 7, executive session. In accordance with the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, Subchapter D, 551.071. Move to executive session. Okay, here it is. The City of Council of the City of Pearsall may at any time during the meeting go to executive session for the purpose of consulting with attorneys, Section 5.5072, deliberating about real property, Section 5.5073, deliberating about gifts, donations, Section 5.5074, deliberating about personnel matters, Section 551.076, deliberating about securities devices, 551.084. So our guest tonight is subchapter D, 5.555, 551.071. Yeah. So is there a motion to go into executive session?
Make a motion.
Executive session items will be discussed and update regarding cause number 0416-00815, CV Tobias versus City of Pearsall litigation, and B, discussion regarding the closure of the Fairfield County Jail. So is there a motion to go into executive session? Motion?
Second.
And a second, all in favor? Motion carries. Okay, it is 8:59, and we're back in regular session. In open session.
Make a
Item,
motion to open.
okay, is there a second? Second. Okay. All in favor? All right, so item 8A, discussion possible action regarding cause number 0416-00815, CV Tobias versus City of Pearsall litigation. Is there any discussion or motions?
Chairman, I make a motion not to appeal final judgment in the Tobias case versus City of Pearsall.
Okay, there is a motion on the table.
Second.
There is a second. All in favor? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Item 8B, discussion possible action regarding the closure of the Fairfield County Jail. This was, there's no action on this. Okay. So item 9, manager's report.
Mr. Chairman, Council, first, the 2019 day of the legislature, Mayor, Council members Briscoe, Trevino, and Frazier, and staff members attended the annual legislative day at the Texas Capitol with representatives from Fairfield County and the City of Dilley last month. They included time in the Senate and House of Representatives, lunch with Senator Flores, and meetings with TCEQ, TxDOT, and Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. Our hot tax bill has been filed and will be assigned to committee at some point later this month or early next month. We'll be following that bill and doing whatever we need to do to work it through the process. At this time, I'll have the finance director give you the finance report.
Chairman, council members, y'all's financial report are up there with you guys. We'll go ahead and identify we're at 33% of our budget. The utility bills are currently at $830,000, past $191,000. Our debt is due in March and in September, so we have nothing pending as of this moment. The cash on deposit, we currently have 1.9 million in general fund and 246,000 in the utilities funds consolidated. And there are all your other fund balances as well. Over on to your current year-to-date for your taxes, your ad valorem, we currently collected 72%. Delinquent, we're at 32%. Penalties at 14%. The city sales tax is at 29%. Mixed beverage tax at 41%, and our franchise fees is at 35%. Year-to-date at the bottom, you'll see the general fund, we're net over 1.2 million. The utility funds consolidated, we're net over 197,000. And it also identifies it broken down by water sewer fund, your gas, which is a deficit of 43,000, and then your garbage for a net over 32,000. We also identify the month end, the total revenue is 784,000. The expenditures are 826,000 for a deficit of 44,000 for the monthly expenses for your general fund and your utilities. The fund transfers for the month, we've only conducted one, which is the bonuses for the fire department, which we had originally budgeted 10,000, we expended 8,800, so that's what was transferred over. Does anybody have questions on that report?
Just one clarification on the city sales tax, that 29% means we're 29% of our projected?
29% of our projected.
29%.
So we're well ahead of our projection.
No, we're actually a little bit behind. We should be at 33.33% right now. On the total budget, we are at 29.39. We had the month before last, we talked about, I guess at the last meeting, we had a really low number for that month. Don't know why. This last month, we were very close to what we're supposed to hit each month. To hit our projection, we have to get about, it's a little over 208,000 every month is what we should get. And this month, we were at 204, I think. So it came back up. We should, this next month, we should still see phase 2 kick in, so that should get us up above it. Hopefully, we'll start catching it up.
Okay.
But
was my
I'll
next
talk
question.
about that a little bit more in the manager report too.
So I have a question. This is 47.5% of the budget that has been collected
So
so
the
far?
total revenues?
Right, total.
Yeah, and that's because we front load on the ad valorem taxes. We get a lot of the ad valorem taxes December, January, February. That's when most people pay them. So if you look at ad valorem taxes, we've already collected 72% of what was budgeted. And so now the amount that we take in every month in ad valorem slows way down, because most people have already paid to pay before they get penalties or pay early, so they get the discount. So it'll slow down.
So how does that correlate to where we were at last year, the year before at this time, maybe?
On ad valorem taxes?
No, on the total percent of the budget. Does that fall in line with?
It's pretty, yeah, I would say it's pretty close. It's pretty consistent with how that comes in every year.
Okay.
Actually, on the, if you look on the, we may be a little bit ahead, 'cause on the franchise fees, we are up. And I think this time last year, we were a little bit behind on franchise fees. So I think we made, overall, we may be a little bit, last year on delinquent taxes, we took in a lot more than what we expected to. So, but it's such a small number, it was, $60,000 in the budget. So if you have, if it shows 90% versus 30, it's $20,000 difference, it really doesn't make that big a difference. The big numbers though, we're doing about what we normally do.
Okay.
And of course, at the end of March, we'll be 1/2 of the way through the fiscal year, and we'll sit down with staff and readjust whatever we need to do to make sure we stay inside.
Any other questions from the council?
Okay, so next item, TechStop meeting. The first time I talked about how the legislative day we met with TechStop. So I got a phone call from the local TechStop office last week asking if they could come in and meet this week to follow up on what we discussed with the people in Austin. So I met with staff members of the local TechStop office this week. The meeting was a follow-up to our meeting up there. Items discussed included traffic analysis for a new traffic signal light at the entrance to Pearsall High School. So that's something we talked to them about before, trying to do. I know when I first started, we had one done and they came back and said the numbers were too low. So we joked around with the state people up there and said, you know what, just let us know what day you're gonna put out the strip and we'll just drive back and forth on it all day long. We'll make sure we get the numbers lined up. So they have agreed to do an additional traffic study, but to look at setting up their measurement in different flow areas. Because I think they may have had that traffic marker on the other side of the turn. And so everything between the turn and the 104 was getting measured, but the stuff on this side wasn't getting measured. So they're gonna look at it again and see if we can't come up with enough numbers. To do that, I did ask them if the number wasn't quite sufficient to meet their requirement, if we could look at the number of accidents and have the PD give a report on the number of accidents we have there, because that's the worst intersection in town as far as accidents go as well. And they said that they would sure look at if we could include some of that stuff to justify it if we don't hit the numbers. But they're working on doing a different analysis there. We also talked about potential sidewalk projects on Oak Street for the kids to use to get to the high school. So this project we talked about, they just started the new one. That takes off on this side and goes farther. So we'll get part of that put in this time. They also came up, there's two grants for sidewalks as well. One of those is a safe schools grant. So they think we may have a pretty good chance of getting that. It's a small cost share grant, so we'd have to pay a little bit of it, and the majority of it would come out of there. But in Austin, the county said they'd be willing to help with that. If there was a grant, there was a matching grant to do that, and I'm sure the school would be willing to help with that as well. So maybe the three entities can get together and work on that.
What about on Comau to HEB? There's a lot of foot traffic back on.
They're looking at that as well. That was something else he mentioned as well. They're looking at a lot of work actually on Comau in the next probably 10 years. With some of the stuff he talked about. We did talk about truck traffic issues downtown. The judge had asked them to study a bypass on, I think, a 140 bypass coming in and a bypass. There was a couple areas they talked about. They've looked at a bypass here before. It doesn't make dollars and cents to do it. We had talked to them about trying to get a bypass around the downtown area. Just something where they take over the rest of Colorado and Elm and take them that way. Or do something. The truck traffic in front of City Hall is ridiculous every day. Josie and I were talking tonight, there was 8 trucks went by right after 5:30, all went by at the same time together. Because they can't make the turn with the lights there on Oak. We've had these pipe trucks, the trucks that are carrying the pipe, they can't make that turn, so they're going every direction that they can to get around it. Yesterday, they were going in front of City Hall, we had a staff member go out there and take pictures of them. So today, they went down to Elm and went that way, and they were getting hung up over there on Elm Street as well, because those trucks are too long. So we did talk to them about looking at the potential of some kind of a bypass around downtown. Not to make them, completely not come through town, but do something different here in the downtown area where they're not having to make those sharp turns when there's a bunch of people parked there on Main Street. Because that's when it becomes difficult, is if everybody's parked there on Main Street, they lose part of their turning area because they don't want to get too close to the vehicles on the side, so it ends up cutting into their turning area. So we talked about looking at some of that, and so they're going to review that with us as well, to see if we can come up with something different.
So speaking of Main Street here on Oak in Colorado, the parking right now that's on Main Street and on Colorado is really on the shoulder. And TxDOT has indicated that that's really illegal parking, right?
Well, we talked about that a little bit. They well know that if you try to get rid of that parking in front of some of those small businesses on Main Street, that TxDOT's going to get hammered over that. So they don't really want to do that. We did talk about some options for changing up parking. One of the options we talked about, if we could get this little pocket park open right here behind City Hall, we talked about opening up this back fence and making this parking lot available to people that are going to the cleaners or going to the movie theater or something like that, how that would help. Doing the same thing at the one across the street over there beside the old City Hall and finishing that as a park and making that walking traffic so they can park back behind over there in the parking lot behind Garcia's and walk out to this side. If we came up with some other options for parking, I think that's a possibility. And I think that needs to be part of the master plan as to how we're gonna address that parking problem. TxDOT doesn't want to go through there and mark that as no parking because they know
They don't want to do what?
they don't want to mark it as no parking because they know the backlash they're going to
Do
get.
you think they'd be willing to work with us if they're willing to reroute traffic around downtown?
Well, see, that's what we talked about.
Would they be maybe willing to work with us on angled parking and just kind of look at the 4 lanes there and kind of just go with 2 lanes, at least on Main Street and on Colorado? Because
If we could get the bypass around, that's definitely something we can look at. Of course, we get the bypass around, then Colorado would be out because that would be part of the bypass around. It's either going to be this way on coming in front of City Hall and going out that way, or it's going to be going down Colorado to Elm and going out that way. They like the Colorado to Elm route with the exception of the right turn at the railroad tracks. For a truck, it's kind of hard to see. If swing arms are working, that should be a problem. But they're kind of concerned about that right turn right there, so they may be more interested in this one and come all this way rather than going the route on the other side.
one of the issues on Colorado is because there's quite a few little businesses there, right? And so the parking is an issue. On any day of the week, there's usually a lot of cars parked in the back, in the alley and everywhere. So, I mean, at some point, either city, we're gonna have to look at the alley, or TxDOT maybe help us out in front somehow.
From a parking standpoint, the road Ash to Kamal and out is probably a better route. Because all of our business district right here, that gets the trucks out of that district completely. Because they come off before they even get there and they go out and we don't have to deal with it. If we take them all the way to Elm, we're going through 2 blocks of businesses with the trucks. Coming this way, all they're doing is pass the post office. So that's something that we're going to continue to work on with them and see what they can come up with. Of course, that would require them taking over whatever streets it is and addressing those streets. And then now if you got truck traffic coming in on Oak though, now they've got to make turns and do stuff too. So getting them from Oak out to Charlotte's easy if we make it this way. But if they're coming in on this side of Oak, when they get to Colorado, then what? Because there's no way to get them over, to get them past that business district. So it'd take more than just this route around here to do it. So they're going to look at it and look at the traffic flow and see if they can come up with some idea of maybe something we can start working on.
Well, I'm just thinking with the Main Street program and businesses and so forth, if it's possible to reroute the traffic around outside the perimeters of Main Street.
Absolutely agree with that.
Even go down to, what is the next street? Rio Grande, up that way, and then cut in front of HEB, back to Elm.
Yeah, for the Oak traffic, that might be the way to go, for the traffic coming this way. So we're gonna continue, Charlie and I talked about this for probably about 30 minutes yesterday. And they're gonna go back and look at some numbers and look at, because they've done counts, all, they know how much traffic we have coming each direction almost. And that counter tells them the difference between a semi and a car too, so they know about the traffic. What the judge had asked for was a bypass all the way around town, and I don't know if they'll even seriously look at that for two reasons. One, it's so expensive, but two, what you see in these smaller towns is as soon as TxDOT puts the work into laying it out, the businesses get it shut down. Because you put a truck bypass out there when not everybody else can bypass town too. And basically, the new interstate is what happened to downtown. It was a bypass. So they don't want, they don't want to they don't want to get bypassed again. So he said all these small towns, they look at bypasses and the businesses end up shutting down. So they're going to continue working on it and looking at it. And then we talked about some upcoming TxDOT projects. They've got some additional repairs that they're going to be doing on Oak Street, and some new stuff they're going to be doing on Oak Street, and then the stuff on Mall Street. They talked about that. Students and astronauts, the last meeting we talked about the Pearsall ISD Amateur Radio Club received notice that they are one of the 13 finalists for a time slot to communicate with the International Space Station as part of a program that provides these types of educational opportunities for students. The final selection process is now ongoing. City staff have been assisting the schools with this process and are working with them continuously to hopefully bring this once-in-a-lifetime interaction to the students of Pearsall. We'll continue to do our part to move the process forward. The next step in this is a webinar that everybody that's involved has to attend to kind of see the whole process, how it lays out. I kind of, looking at the list, I kind of think the 13, I think they're going to do all 13 of them. That list is scattered all over the country. The thing that impressed me the most when I looked at the list, most of the high schools that are on that list, most of the schools that are on that list are STEM schools. The Pearsall school is one of, I think, 3 that aren't STEM schools. There's a STEM school at USC that's on that list. There's a STEM school at the University of Colorado that's on that list. Then there's a little Pearsall High School. So I think it's gonna be hard for them to cut them off. If they do cut that list more, it's gonna be pretty hard for them to cut them off that list because it's one of the few regular schools on the list. So I think it's gonna end up happening. Our involvement in this, he reached out to us more, not to really help them set it up or to do it. They had to have somebody to do the media coverage on this. So he reached out to me and said, do you know people with the stations that you can get to come cover this? I said, sure I do. And so we kind of got pulled into it because they're wanting us to get the TV stations to come down here and cover it if it happens. And I'll be able to get those guys to come down. Something like this, they'll come cover. We have good things happen all the time when we can't get them to come down here. Of course, yesterday they were coming down here in droves. But for something like this is the kind of story that we won't have any problems getting the press to come cover. So I think we're going to see this thing happen for the kids at the school. Talked about the Oak Street emergency water line repair last time. We've had the contractor hit our line and we had to do the emergency repair before we lost the whole line. We've been working, talking to all of them, trying to get somebody to start moving forward with getting us paid back. Getting a little bit of resistance with it, so I turned it over to Bobby and he's going to send out some letters and see if we can't scare them into getting us paid. The Patino Park renovation update. The park is getting very close to being done. We still have some smaller items to complete before the March 9th grand opening. And we'll probably have a few items that we'll have to address right after. But all in all, we're about ready to go. If you've been by there, the new equipment you notice that the new equipment is being used a lot. The March 9th event is going to include some bands, food trucks, and we have a couple of, we're trying to get a couple of semi-pro skaters from the Austin area to come in and do demonstrations for the kids and to provide some instruction for the kids at the stadium. So it's getting really, really close to being done. Staffing issues, we're finally getting close to being back to full staff. I believe we have a couple of vacancies that are posted. However, we finally received enough applications to be able to select some better candidates that are capable of passing a drug test. So we've about got the utilities crews full again, the right-of-way crew full again. I think Ram's got 1 vacancy left, Rudy's got 1 left. And so we're getting some more bodies that we can get out there and start doing some stuff. And that's going to help us quite a bit with some of that stuff. Those some of the issues that we were having. Street work, we continue to work on streets. You mentioned earlier, we pulled the right-of-way crew because it was winter time, it was cold. We pulled the right-of-way crew a couple of weeks ago and put 2 crews to work down the potholes. That's why you started seeing a noticeable increase in how much was getting done really quick. We've come a long way on this. Thought it was interesting when we talked to TxDOT, both at the meeting at the Capitol and the meeting here, that they were talking about the issues they're having with their roads right now and how all the issues they're having with their roads were caused by the truck traffic during the oil boom, and that they were now seeing the impacts, which is the same thing as what we're seeing as well. We've also been speaking with some of the county elected officials about some interlocal agreements so that we can redo some of our streets, zip them and chip seal them. The ones that we've talked to have been in agreement with us to try to help us on this as we move forward. So we're gonna try to get some proposals together for a few of the streets to do, if we can get the budget worked out with what we're doing, to be able to zip and chip seal some of those streets, and maybe set up a program where we zip and chip seal 3, 4, 5, 6 a year, every year, and start getting soil and rebuild. On the 2018 audit, the auditor presented the draft audit numbers for your review earlier, talked about what was going on. I wanted to explain a little bit more about why we're doing, how we're doing it right now. The charter requires that the audit be filed with the city clerk for inspection within 150 days of the end of the fiscal year. That is February 28th. However, what we're doing now with our audit is so far beyond what a regular audit was, it doesn't really fit into the requirement that's in the charter. Because we're not just doing a basic balance audit, we're doing a certified audit. It's got so much more stuff to it. It's not really an audit, it's a whole different thing. So the CAFR that we're doing in the city of Pearsall now probably provides about 400% more information than a regular audit. And definitely is more than what was ever normal here in the city in the years before that when audits were done. So as such, we'll definitely have the final audited numbers filed with the city clerk prior to or on February 28th. That meets the requirements of the charter for public inspection to meet the requirements. Then we'll have the full CAFR done by the end of March, and that's what will be submitted to you guys to approve, because we can't halfway approve a CAFR, we have to have the full thing done. So we'll have that, and that has to be done by the end of March. So we'll have that done and make sure that we get that approved so we can get it submitted. And that'll complete, and then that'll get filed with the city clerk as well. So we'll file two things. We'll file the audited balance numbers, which meets the audit requirement, but then we'll file a CAFR with the clerk as well. And when we redo the charter the next time, we need to change that provision of the charter so that it matches what we're actually doing now, because we're doing so much more than we did before. And the last thing I have is just a reminder, city offices will be closed on Monday for President's Day. And that's all I have.
Okay. Any questions? All right, next is the review of bills paid. Do we need a motion?
No, but just if you have any questions, shall I?
Anybody have any questions on bills? Okay. We don't.
Okay, we'll move on to the next.
Okay, general announcements.
I only have one tomorrow, 3 o'clock, County Commission Chambers. The commission is supposed to be getting a presentation from the sheriff about the jail. So if anybody's interested in hearing what they have to say, that will be when we should hear it. I'll be there.
At
She will
3
be there.
o'clock.
Tomorrow at what?
Tomorrow, 3 o'clock,
3 o'clock.
at the County Commission Chambers.
Commissioners Court.
Oh, and in front of you is your audit letter envelope. That is a requirement under state law for each of you to fill out. That has to be submitted back to the auditor. But we need to get those done as soon as you can get to them. If you've already, yeah, that's supposed to be, it's where you regularly sit and not where you're sitting. So, yeah, it's in your regular spot. So if you can get those, if you have any questions, give us a call. They're pretty straightforward. Bring your,
Yes.
You just mail them out.
yeah, just fill them out. You can just send them back or you can bring them in here, either one, whatever.
Any other announcements?
That's all I have.
Okay. Number 12, city council inquiries for staff and/or items for future agendas. No discussion or action on any of these items at this time, but is there anyone?
We need to take a look at a court case that Waller County just lost that has to do with carrying in public buildings, right to carry in public buildings. There's a chance that we may be out of compliance with that law.
So you want to put that on the agenda, or?
Yeah, we need to take a look at it, and we need to take a look at it, see if we're out of compliance with state law when it comes to carrying.
Is there, two
Get
others
two
that
to
agree?
agree. That's something we need to do, so get two to agree.
Agree.
We'll put it on there.
Anyone else?
We'll look at it, I'll look at it for next week.
Okay. Any other items for future agendas? Okay, so that brings us to number 13, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Take care. Good night.
Thank you.